It's like in our country, mixed martial arts is kind of based on some street kid principles.
I'll say it, it's truly a show.
They're gods.
So what? Nothing good about it.
The conditions there are very harsh.
And all your legacy.
I'm very glad that you're here today, my friends. We have Taras Kiyashko and Artyom Dzyuba with us. We've known each other for a long time. Artyom, you and I have known each other for probably 3 years, maybe even more.
Well, probably since the pandemic started.
Yeah, since the pandemic started, I've known Taras for a long time. Because I used to go to Strela and started going there in 2018, and I saw Taras there for the first time during my first classes. He's like our older brother, I would say, the mentor of the Strela team. A lot of well-known athletes now consider Sasha Volkov their mentor. From the most recent ones Sasha has brought up, probably.
If we're talking about the UFC, then Alexander Volkov and Sergey Pavlovich, well, of course, he has his own coaching staff, but he trains with us, and in England, there was a time his coaches couldn't come due to visa issues, so we brought him in. Yes, there are plenty of guys, basically all the top guys who now represent Russia in the UFC and Bellator, they've all been through our gym. And the team, like you said, we have a jiu-jitsu squad, amateur and everything.
Alexander, are you an amateur?
No, you could say that, yeah, listen, well, it's already been 5 years. 5 years, purple, now the knee. Honestly, it messed up my plans, but I like it, I don't regret it. People tell me you should have done wrestling instead, but listen, you can get injured anywhere, And I didn't even get injured during wrestling. I don't regret it for a second.
It's like a curse for all athletes, because even our own Volodya Deineka, he has a fight coming up on the 10th. So he and the guy we have here, another guy is training now, Hassan Yousefi, he's from Iran.
Yeah.
They shook hands with each other, like, let's push each other a bit, do a little push.
I wrestled with him since he's a big guy.
Yeah, they came, push, and then something comes to Hassan's mind, he does a sweep and Vova falls on his shoulder.
And then he blacked out.
That's it. It's not an old injury, it's a new one that just came up now.
And the fight is cancelled?
No, the fight isn't cancelled. The fight will be on the 10th. But these stupid things that happen, not during training, not during sparring, but just out of foolishness, I would say.
Yes, all injuries. By the way, actually, even in football, I'm sure that if you look at most of the injured players, many of them get injured during warm-ups. How is it right
On
cold, and not even during the game, but right out of the car? For example, I heard about Tony Ferguson. When his knee was cut in half, they operated on him, stitched his ligaments together. The guy hits with his knees and elbows, trains in a very specific way, it's dangerous, and he got injured. I got it, he says. I was walking down the street, someone called me. I just turned around on the spot. He just turned around in place, and everything in his knee blew apart.
You could see his foot stayed in place.
Yeah, and that's it. Maybe there was some kind of buildup of injuries there, and then, suddenly at a certain moment it just happened. Let's start from the beginning. I've always been curious, maybe you both can answer this, Tiom, about soccer and also about mixed martial arts, coach. Right now I'm watching, the championship is going on, and I'm looking at who the coach is. And for some reason I rarely see that the coach is some kind of super cool, like a player on the level of Pele. I mean, sometimes they're players, like for example the last one, Ralph Rangnick, but these are people who in general aren't ultra famous and yet they lead top teams. So I'm curious, what is the criteria for a person? How do you know that he can be a great coach? This applies to both football and mixed martial arts. Because, for example, very few great boxers have actually trained great students.
It doesn't always work out, so what are the criteria for success to understand that someone is a great mentor? Listen, let me answer first. I think overall there's a big factor here. I mean, for example, from the most recent ones who come to mind, a real star is Zidane, for instance, who was at Real Madrid. He did some crazy things. They won the Champions League like 3 times in a row, I think. He won everything.
We're saying that he was both a top player and a top coach.
A top star, yes, and a top coach. I think that helped him a lot. Well, obviously you can't get anywhere without some luck. Plus, I think having a certain name matters. When you're coaching Real Madrid and you're surrounded by stars like Cristiano Ronaldo, at that time Gareth Bale, everyone, Toni Kroos. So here, when someone starts talking like, hey, I did this and that, Zidane can just turn around and say, guys, I actually played myself and I won myself. So there really is a certain magic here. For example, even Cristiano can't say something to Zidane because Zidane will say, listen buddy, I was there too.
Well, they respect each other.
100%, because they have to. Well, I think that strong people in general should find common ground with each other. Right now, I think there's a really big imbalance in all areas. In sports, people have become very afraid. The more of a star you become, the more titled, the cooler you are. It's very uncomfortable for the specialists.
They can't deal with you because you're down to earth.
Because they're basically afraid they don't know how to behave around a star. Yeah, so you kind of have to assert yourself. Somehow the fact that I'm above them, and they probably try to find some kind of inner peace, or I don't know, maybe to sleep better at night or something like that. I don't know, maybe it's supposed to be ego, something like that. You need to put down someone like Christian a little bit. I don't know, now Ten Hag has come. Before that it was Rangnick, so why Christian? He asked, who is that, with all due respect?
I have the same question. What is it based on? Why did he become a coach? Why? What are the criteria? What should a coach be able to do to become great?
Listen, well, he should have a good education, basically, because they study for a long time there. You need that for this. That's why you have to pass a lot of those different A, B, and so on. I mean, there's actually a lot, it's really painstaking. Plus, I think there are a lot of really smart, even overly smart people now who take up tactics and all that.
But in mixed martial arts, well,
Again, if we look at football, take Ferguson, for example, Manchester, right?
No, it means he's a mastodon, a dying breed, like Ancelotti still is. Yeah.
They used to be football players too, back in the day.
They played. Actually, probably, ideally, there should be people from the profession. Well, yeah, I mean, there are nuances that you probably won't mention, but there are people who, thanks to their vast experience, can. Since childhood, maybe from age 28 or 30, their career may not have worked out, or they trained somewhere, but football was always around them. And over the course of a long time, like 25 years, you start to gain such vast experience and understanding of football that you can already do a lot. Basically, that's what it's about. Still, there's a big trend now, even at the World Cup. There are a lot of specialists. For example, Spain, Luis Enrique, a former footballer, and Southgate from England is also coaching.
Deschamps is a new generation.
Deschamps from France is also a former good footballer. These are really great footballers. We're not talking about superstars like Zidane, but they're great footballers, stars of world football as well. That's why I think the new generation, well, that's right. People should come from the profession. I can't imagine some random guy just coming in and taking charge here like it's nothing. But why not do it if it's already there? Salt in football, like when is it? What should I do here? The ball is right here. And then suddenly, for many people, it's already a dead end. There are very few specialists who actually work with tactics. This is very important, and I think it's number one in any sport. 100% I would even bet my head on it. A specialist should be a psychologist and know how to find the right approach to their sport.
To each person, especially with 25 people on the national team. Yes.
There are team sports, there are individual ones, and each has its own nuances. I mean, that's the main thing.
And how do they train? Honestly, I follow football, I watch, I don't miss many matches. Well, now the championship is going on, I watch almost everything, but how do the trainings happen? For most people, they have no idea. If you ask, how do you imagine it? And I did ask around, you know what they say? Well, they just think that every day they play 1 or 2 training matches and just run around. So can you tell me how the trainings actually go? And I'm also really interested in recovery because I want to understand how professional athletes recover nowadays. Well, cold baths are really popular. I'll add a couple of words from myself too, but I'm interested in what you use in your practice. Or for example, do you use cold baths yourself?
Listen, well, look, if we go in order, of course, it's not like that. You play football twice. I mean, there's a specialist, and you might not play football at all for a week. So there are some tactical movements, some drills and other things, but basically the cycle is mostly scheduled. So let's say, for example, there's a game on Saturday, and on Sunday there's a recovery training for those who played the whole match or most of it. They ran for 50-60 minutes, then did 20-30 minutes of stretching, did some stretching exercises, and that's it, then went on to do recovery procedures.
How many games per week do you think is comfortable for you to handle?
Listen, in football you can probably comfortably play 2 games a week. It's just not possible to play more than that in football. I mean, you could try to arrange something else, but that would lead to a huge number of injuries. Speaking of recovery, honestly, I didn't come to this understanding right away. Back then, if you were young, they'd just tell you to rub against the fence and you'd be fine. You were lucky to even get a massage. The massage therapist might glance at you and say, "You're only 18, why are you here? Go get some rest." Or the senior might say, listen, buddy.
But why?
Because that's just how it's always been. I mean, you always end up laughing.
That's how it is in our football?
I think that's basically the case everywhere.
So, Ronaldo was just complaining, as I know, about Manchester. He says, I left here, years ago, came back, and everything is the same at the same level. So, well, apparently, he has something to compare it to. He set up his house there and owns a third of it.
Let's take Cristiano. He's really, in a good way, a real paranoid in this regard. He already sleeps at a certain time. It's just off the charts. He has a whole team, already individual. Yeah, the quality of every athlete depends on how professionally he approaches things. It seems like he even goes a bit overboard now. Yes, it's already like a paranoid person, someone who sleeps 3 hours, wakes up and eats this.
But on the other hand, here's a question. Let's take Wayne Rooney, for example. This is also a question for the subscribers. We recently discussed epigenetics. Well, I'll explain briefly. There's what you're born with, the set of genes you got from your mom and dad. You can't influence them. They are what they are, like the color of your eyes or your hair, but you can influence the activity of certain genes. There are a lot of them in us. Yeah, you can either increase or decrease their activity. For example, you might have a tendency, let's say, toward obesity. If you eat everything without control, if you don't exercise, you'll be overweight. But if you know your genetics and eat properly, so genetics doesn't determine our future 100%. This is the effect of separated twins. Two identical people, you can't even tell them apart in photos, are separated. They grow up in different families and grow up. One is skinny, one is fat, one is a criminal, one is something else. So the environment they live in and their lifestyle really have a strong influence. That's why, on the one hand, yes, the reason I remembered Rooney is because I think they're the same age.
Well, actually, yes.
Let's put up the photos.
Well, they used to say about Rooney that he might be a bit older than his age, like just a little, but not to the extent that he looks now.
I don't know, he looks about 45 or 50 in a bad way.
And I don't think he was drinking beer so much that he's already like that.
Do you believe that if we put Rooney into a healthy lifestyle with good nutrition and habits and remove everything he had, like drugs and alcohol, which I know were problems? So, do you think he would look exactly the same? Listen,
I think he might look better, definitely not worse. Maybe that style wouldn't suit him or let him play, but he could.
Maybe, but I assure you about 80-90% of what Cristiano has in terms of appearance and well-being, he would have the same. So epigenetics is number one right now. Many people used to think that things are just the way they are, that it's just bad luck, that's why their teeth fell out, that's why their hair fell out.
Well, listen, when people say, it's just my genetics, my mom and dad are overweight, so I'll just eat eclairs and that's it, what can I do? No, that's nonsense. In professional sports nowadays, everyone definitely watches their weight and their diet. They really try. You can allow yourself some indulgences, like occasionally eating sweets. Many people are now actively fighting this. It wasn't like this before, but each year it's increasing. I mean, the body fat percentage should be this or that, but I'm still a supporter of the idea that there should be a certain percentage of body fat. Because it protects you, you don't push yourself as hard. Your body still retains some important things, plus it helps with recovery. You mentioned cold baths, but honestly I hate them. When I was younger, they used to make me go in, and every time I got sick, once, twice, when you do that hot, cold contrast, good evening fever.
Here's a simple example. They did it the wrong way. The right way is to put ice in water, sit in it, and let it cool gradually, which cools you too. That's the first point. Second, it's more suitable. That's exactly after mixed martial arts, style training, boxing, sparring, when you need to reduce swelling and inflammation, like in football, maybe your legs, maybe.
There, most people just dip themselves in, mainly because after heavy exertion, for example, if there was a really long run.
It's to reduce swelling, well, yeah.
Yeah, so you immediately get rid of it, all that swelling, and the pain in your legs goes away right away, so...
It came from American football, Artyom, listen.
Maybe, well, that's what they do. I mean, they invented Game Ready specifically. For example, Game Ready is a special device where you pour in a certain amount of water and ice.
Ice?
Yeah, you pour in the ice and you can actually use the hoses. Well, yeah, you were really cool. You knew something like that. Yeah, Game Ready, check it out later. Dear subscribers, Game Ready and Normatec, there are such things, of course, they're a bit expensive, especially now. I think in our difficult times, they're even more expensive. But actually, before I came to Zenit in St. Petersburg, I had never even thought about it. But at home, you should have, as a real professional athlete, especially probably a football player, I know Normatec and Game Ready.
Your knees are injured, by the way.
Listen, overall no, but any. My left one is a bit worse than my right because there's a certain degree of arthrosis there. But that's just our professional, as they say, ailment. I mean, it's normal, so knock on wood. I can't complain since I haven't had a single injury.
It's essentially the same, and that's normal in professional mixed martial arts.
Game-ready devices are actually used.
Well, they're used less. I think, after all, from the point of view of professional team sports like football or hockey. Yes, when a team has good sponsorship support, naturally it's a different level. Like the Russian Premier League, English Premier League, it doesn't matter. There's more equipment there and it's more advanced. All of this is under the control of mixed martial arts. After all, martial arts is a more individual sport, and it depends on how much the athlete himself can afford all this equipment and recovery. That's how it will be, depending on whether he's on a team that can provide him with all of this.
For example, I think Conor McGregor doesn't need anything. He probably already has it all.
Well, it depends on the level. I also don't think, for example, that a team from the third or second division has the same opportunities as, say, Zenit or Spartak.
That is, in almost every Premier League team, roughly speaking, each team probably has 3 to 4 game-ready devices and 3 to 4 Normatec devices. Well, thanks to this, probably now football players, athletes, footballers in general are extending their careers, of course.
And as for saunas, because my attitude towards them is quite positive. It is believed that if you go 3 times a week or twice a week for 10-15 minutes and experience hypothermia, overheating, it greatly reduces the risks, like cardiovascular diseases. So, if you have contraindications, well, for example, varicose veins, heart attack, stroke, or if you have hypertension, yes, you shouldn't, but if you train regularly, which is essentially body training, it's beneficial. So, is this proven? Yes, because in response to overheating, heat shock proteins are released, I think that's what they're called, and what do? They allow basically to untangle protein clumps inside the cells. So proteins are kind of like headphones from your pocket. You take them out and they're tangled.
The question is, what does overheating mean to you?
Overheating, hyperthermia. So look, we have receptors on our body. Receptors. And we don't need the fact that the temperature is high, we need the fact that the body feels stimulation. And if we compare, for example, there's also cryo, right? Cryo is cool too, like cryotherapy. But why is cold considered more effective? Because it stimulates you 5 to 6 times more, since the number of cold receptors is about 6 times greater than the number of receptors that perceive heat. So, how does cryotherapy work? It doesn't freeze you. It doesn't freeze you a centimeter deep, basically. You yourself don't actually freeze. You sense stimulation, but your body misinterprets it. It detects something you don't truly feel with your tissues. There's no real cold, yet the effect is significant. Originally, they used to blow cold, dry air and treated arthritis this way. Then they started using a cryo chamber where you're exposed to liquid nitrogen in the form of vapor, and it really works. There, endorphins, adrenaline, and noradrenaline are released, your insulin levels become stable, so it brings benefits, and this has been proven in the lab. Regarding cold baths, for example, I recently recorded a podcast and I did some research. There are no studies that prove anything 100%, and just as many say that there's no benefit at all. But the principles are the same as in cold baths. They're the same in air cooling, they're the same in cryotherapy, and there everything is pretty well proven, and these are very old methods, they've been around for decades.
So here we are doing cryotherapy. I actually spent some time doing it myself.
You felt it?
Listen, I don't know. It's hard for me to say. I always feel kind of energetic, positive, and great. I don't know. The sensations were just cool. After that, you feel excited. They also strictly forbade us from doing that 2 days before the game, saying it's not good. Something gets released. Something in the fire.
I haven't gone myself, unfortunately. Maybe I'll get a chance someday. But all the guys I've talked to who managed to try it didn't really feel any special effect.
Well, we watched the professionals.
I'm talking about the professionals, the guys who fight at a high level. Everyone goes to the sauna regularly, at least once a week. That's really our thing. Everyone gets massages, 100%, especially during fight preparation. Yeah, closer to the start, massages are definitely done. During the regular period, the base period, it's usually kept to a minimum. That's normal for everyone. Everyone starts taking care of themselves when they get injured or when they're really preparing for a fight and need to be at their peak. That's when everything possible is used. Anything that can help with recovery, everyone uses it.
And Sasha Volkov Alexander, he lives near my house now. There's a pond there, and I know this because we're friends, we talk, and he even invited me. He said, let's go together, let's take a dip. I told him, okay, but I got sick and couldn't make it. This year, for sure. He goes there and they break the ice right there. They dive in. He did it all winter.
I saw on his Instagram, he's always doing it.
He really feels it.
Well, you have to prepare for that too.
Well, sure, as usual, nothing happens. Then the epiphany frosts hit, you cross yourself and jump into the ice hole, and then you end up with pneumonia or prostatitis.
Now there's this popular guy, Iceman Hoffman, right?
Yeah.
Famous for coffee, for Hoff.
There is such a style.
At an old age, yes, like a grandfather. He promotes breathing exercises, meditation exercises, and specifically cold exposure exercises. There are those immersions, walking in the snow and all that. But in terms of all those breathing techniques he promotes and the work with cold, it really works. Because I know a number of guys who use his breathing method, recover, and they say they really get a good effect.
But he's unique. He does it for about an hour, I think, or however long it is.
Well, something like that, that's what I heard.
He just sits in the ice, right in the ice hole, and even longer, I think.
Well, you're right, as far as I understand, from what we've heard. At first they go in wearing thermal underwear and all sorts of things, so you can show that too. They put on clothes. At first they even wear warm socks and all that. So when you dive in, basically only your face is bare. So I think you really need to prepare for this properly.
The illnesses start, yes.
These days many people just jump in and that's it. Good evening.
Surely you, as someone from the medical field, know that there are a lot of contraindications.
Even the most beneficial things have contraindications.
Most people don't know their own contraindications. If you suggest going to the banya, many will agree, even those with conditions like hypertension.
Well, yes, if you've had heart attacks, strokes, if your veins are affected, varicose veins in your legs, thrombosis, then, well, you need to be careful. It's considered beneficial to do it briefly but intensely. So if we're talking about the benefits, sitting there for an hour, like, seeing who can last longer, that's not really right. Of course, you need to make sure you're not dehydrated, because after working out, you're already dehydrated and haven't restored your water balance. And he goes in, sits there with a pulse of 200 sweating, and the sweat is already thick, coming out of him.
So, we're getting to something that's always interested me. These mixed martial arts fighters, they all cut weight, and they do it really intensely. They put on these tracksuits, get on the exercise bike, right, and wrap themselves up with this cling film, yeah.
Nobody uses cling film anymore. It's been outdated for ages.
Now, I think there are these little rooms like tents, apparently, which are popular right now.
Yeah, a tent, a mini sauna, you sit there with a hose.
Well, it's like a barrel, I think.
In Rostov, you sit there and your head sticks out and then it's just some kind of hell going on inside.
And with saunas, there are a bunch of experiments going on. That's just what's happening.
Explain it to me as a doctor.
So it's artificial dehydration?
So you go 1, 2, 3.
Look, why do we sweat? We sweat basically so that when we're hot, we can cool down, because when moisture evaporates from the surface of the body, it helps us cool off. Accordingly, we make the body try to cool itself down and lose weight, because the main goal is to get rid of excess water. If in bodybuilding, for example, it's to look good or to fit into a category, then here basically the goal is also to fit into a category. It doesn't matter how you look, it doesn't matter how you feel, the main thing is to fit in. By the way, I have a question. I myself have dropped quite a lot of weight when I was cutting, the most I ever dropped. But just so you understand, a month before that, considering my body fat percentage was minimal, I weighed 110. In a month, my competition weight was 91, and before that, it was 115. I gained it in just 4 days.
Wait, how much did you weigh again? 110? 110?
Yeah, and if you're talking about intensity...
Yeah, so how long did it take you? Was it 8
days? Let me tell you, from 103 to 91, and my body fat percentage was 5.
So basically that's 9 kilograms.
I gained 9 kilograms, but it wasn't fat, so it was just... I was pushing myself. It was... Well...
The last 103 to 91.
Yeah.
You already have...
12 kilograms.
Start recording. This isn't healthy. We're not discussing health benefits. This is professional sports.
You think, both of you, it's definitely not healthy. That's definitely 12. I have...
What's the question? Well, okay, bodybuilding? Yeah, okay, but I just remembered a recent fight. There was Odesenia Pereira and many fights like that. One person comes out, and in everyday life, like Demetrius Johnson, he weighs about 1 kilo more than he fights at, and there are people who come out with a huge weight cut, relatively speaking. So in everyday life he weighs 100, but at the weigh-in he goes in at 85 and then comes out almost at that same 100. pretty much. Obviously, if he came out at that same 100 without the weight cut, he'd be more productive. But that's not really fair.
Well, everyone talks about how it's unfair, but let's just say the rule sets a limit, and now the organization One Fighting Championship has introduced a limit. They have a lot of weigh-ins, I think more than 3, maybe 3 or 4, I could be wrong, but not more than that. It's 5 kilograms. They don't allow cutting and watch closely. People who used to fight in the 70 kg category, for example, moved up to the 77 kg category, and those who fought at 93 kgs, they ended up in the heavyweight division. Well,
It's really like cheating.
I even think it's cheating.
but again, it all came from boxing. Professionally,
Yes, but the point of sports is to show who is technically, essentially superior to someone else.
In boxing, I think the weight difference doesn't matter as much. I mean, of course, the punch is there.
still, in boxing, there are weight classes. Like every 100 grams, there's a weight category.
It's not for nothing.
Well, yeah, I think someone great, I might be mistaken now. There are champions in 5 or 6 weight categories.
Yeah, it's not for nothing. We consider it. The heavier the weight, the stronger the punch, up to 8. And as soon as you fight against an 85 kilogram guy, put a 100 kilogram body on you, that's a 15 kilogram difference. So even if you're technically a bad boxer,
Dom Artyom weighs 120 kilo and isn't a good boxer, but if he fights someone weighing 60 kilo after the weigh-in,
yeah, no, but I even had a video, and there the guys came over, did some delicate repairs, guys. There was a guy from the Caucasus, he's a freestyle wrestler. We met, started talking about something, and even made a video. I've never wrestled professionally, never did anything like that. He's a freestyle wrestler. He weighs 65, I think, about 65, 154 pounds, and I'm around 97, 100 at most. So when I started a conversation with him, I asked, could you beat me in wrestling? He was like, you have no chance because I'm a professional, a master of sports, and he understands that I have a 30 kilogram advantage and I'm an athletic person. So, friends joke around, and we said, let's wrestle, let's do it. He was really good at getting out and twisting, but it ended with me pinning him down and saying, I can choke you with a Startagra move. And he was like, go ahead, try it. So I choked him out. Basically, I choked out a master of sports, just because I had the weight advantage, that's all.
an even bigger difference of 40 kilograms. Well,
Again, anyway, Artyom, you're not exactly a newbie when it comes to martial arts, and you do have an understanding of wrestling. I saw that match, and I'll say this, from a wrestling standpoint, he was doing everything right there. Yeah, but the thing is, the guy is really a freestyle wrestler, and you know yourself that freestyle wrestlers have a different style of wrestling. When he's on the ground, he needs to be on his stomach, not on his back. They have completely different rules, they can't lie on their shoulders. And again, it's the same thing with freestyle wrestlers. He didn't expect that Artyom could take his back and just choke him out like that.
And even lift him up. I'm just saying, he's really huge.
But weight matters a lot, that's what I would say.
That I also agree with Sasha here that it should have been introduced a long time ago. But again, I think a lot of crowns would fall right away.
In jiu-jitsu, again, let's take our amateur jiu-jitsu, it doesn't matter. At many levels, now they weigh you right before you go out onto the tatami, and you have to...
I weigh in wearing my gi.
You have to weigh in while wearing your gi before entering the tatami. Then you go and fight.
That's right. Now you see how many people lean on towels or do something else.
Something else, but that's already cheating?
That's normal cheating. It's just that they can't do it until they're 40, let's say, not at 30. Well, yeah.
I would probably say that it's part of the show. Yeah, this is mixed martial arts, I'll say it. It's a show. A real show that lasts a week. There are a couple of days of press conferences, then a separate weigh-in day when people come out. All of this is to hype up and excite the audience.
I have a question right away. Maybe you've seen it too. There's trash talk like, I did your mom, I did your dad, I did your house. They talk trash for 2 months during the preparation, throwing dirt at each other, and then you watch the fight. So maybe they haven't fought yet, or it's between rounds or at the end, and they're winking at each other, showing respect. So why does this respect suddenly end after the fight? From the start, they kind of have this thing in professional fighting like, hey buddy, we need to hype up the fight, promote it. I'll talk trash about you, but don't take it personally. You too. Only good things for you.
Well, I would say that there are no fixed fights.
Well, I mean, no, I believe that supposedly
They understand inside why this is necessary and they do it consciously, they get hyped up and promote themselves. Yeah, the respect after the fight, yeah, sometimes it does look funny because literally the day before, yeah, he was trash talking and that's it. And then you see them hugging and shaking hands.
Yeah, like, I'll kill you, I'll take your wife right on your back, all that stuff. And then after it's brother respect, much respect to you. Yeah, that's how it is.
Well, there's no problem.
Well, if we take McGregor, he just looks harmonious and magnificent in this. Thanks to McGregor, everyone started watching, everyone found out who McGregor is.
By the way,
I basically...
also got into it back in the day because I wanted to be a part of it.
Of course not. Actually, I think it's right. Getting involved makes you feel more confident when you can fight or defend yourself. So, there's some understanding.
But you saw his injury, right?
Yes.
Of course I watched. I'm a big fan. There are a lot of versions and theories about why things like this happen. And it seems like with those people who have been in sports for a long time, who already have everything built up, everything is set, and they shouldn't be breaking down.
Weight cuts.
Weight cuts. That's the first thing. The second thing is, they often talk about taking anti-estrogens, which, by the way, John Johnson was caught using.
Well, pharmaceuticals basically, yeah.
These are drugs that increase your own testosterone as a side effect, meaning they block female sex hormones and, through this mechanism, increase male hormones. Yeah, in terms of athleticism, you get better, higher, your own testosterone increases, meaning your testicles start working more actively. But what's the main injury women get in winter? When they fall, when their estrogen is low, they break their ankles, neck, hips, fractures. Why? Because at 45, 50, 55 estradiol is almost zero, menopause sets in and there's osteopenia, osteoporosis. In men who promote the Campa de Campa method, they often have bone demineralization, meaning they simply develop osteoporosis. Why do these injuries practically not happen in categories? Not categories, but in federations where, supposedly there's no doping, right? But they just don't test them. You can see it just by looking at the athletes. Like in the NFC, they look visually clean. If you look at them, I don't know, but in Bellator I think they're also pretty big guys.
In Bellator used to be, I would even say like that before. UFC started doing doping tests, but the way they do it in UFC, nobody else does it like that now.
With United States Anti-Doping Agency.
With United States Anti-Doping Agency, yes. In Bellator, it's selective. Then they might test champions, and already there, some championship fights, main fights, they check, but in the UFC, it's a whole different story. As soon as you sign the contract, you sign a contract with United States Anti-Doping Agency. United States Anti-Doping Agency needs to know they should have a calendar, almost for a month or two, with your schedule, how you move, where you go. And the officers can come at 5 in the morning, at 6 in the morning, even late at night. They come. If you don't open the door or answer the phone 2-3 times, you'll be fined and disqualified.
But is it worth banning? Honestly, because it turns out that way.
That we're once again coming back to the conversation about honesty.
So, he goes into mixed martial arts fights someone, and he prepared honestly, meaning he didn't use anything. And he goes up against a guy who, besides being 20 kilograms heavier in everyday life, yeah, he's loaded up, just cut weight smartly, cleaned up properly, as they say, and he just didn't get caught. That's not really fair. Why do many people say they'll never recognize John Jones as great? Because he got caught doping. Although objectively I think he's the coolest in terms of achievements, he has the most title defenses. In the UFC at least, yeah, he got caught, but I'm sure that 8 out of 10 people he fought, like Rampage Jackson, who isn't even out of shape now. You can see the guy has entered hypogonadism, likely because he stopped using anything. I don't think that's true for everyone.
I'm sure he was taking something.
I'm sure back in the day too.
You're sure, but when that was introduced,
He was already eating Conina.
Many champions declined after United States Anti-Doping Agency was introduced. He began working with them fairly recently.
Brock Lesnar didn't reach.
Like that closely.
Yeah, Brock Lesnar didn't reach.
Well,
so
I think Brock Lesnar, and they right, of course his fees stopped him, because in wrestling they earn much more than in mixed martial arts. But honestly, for me, it was a mystery how this 160 kilogram guy cuts weight to make the limit.
And he said that they take things there. When people don't feel anything, they go out, like you said, they don't even feel pain or hits. So you see...
There are a lot of painkillers, all kinds of different ones.
There's even something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there are some that really hit a person hard. He doesn't get knocked out and recovers very quickly. You can't say that he doesn't get knocked out, but he recovers really fast.
You see, that's a mystery to me. I mean, either you agree on everything right from the start, or both of you do, so that it's clear. You know what I mean? So, for example, some great fighter comes out like, I don't know, Anderson Silva, and then some thug shows up, some deaf guy, yeah, with an intelligence quotient of 0, with no developed intelligence, doesn't feel anything, doesn't understand anything. And so Silva is showing him all these moves, right? And then suddenly, especially in mixed martial arts, it's not just regular punches, but some shot comes out of nowhere, like from under the ear. Good evening, and there goes all your legacy.
The most frustrating part is that even if we form a federation where naturals and people on gear are separated, some on gear will still try to sneak into the natural category since they can't compete there, so they'll try to prove themselves here.
That's exactly what the UFC is dealing with right now. Yeah, they said there are huge penalties for missing weight. If you miss weight, bam, you get fined this much. If you get caught with something, bam, another penalty. But again, it's really hard. It's like, I don't know. Well, they fight this in football too, but honestly, I'm sure, let's say, hypothetically, if they caught someone like Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi, let's just imagine for a second. Yeah, they would definitely cover it up, because that would be such a huge reputational stain.
That doesn't happen in football.
Listen, in football, nothing will help you at all. This has already been tried, and everyone says it's impossible. So, no matter what you do, at one point people were saying that cocaine would somehow help, and there were cases when football players got caught. I don't think it really helps you much. So what, will you get better at receiving the ball, or will you start making better decisions?
Well, that's us. You're talking about technical skills, but in terms of endurance, increasing endurance, yeah, like being able to run for 90 minutes straight.
Time has started.
That's a completely different time frame.
In football in general, I mean, we've always kind of, not always, but there was something like that. For example, in hockey, they kind of stew in their own juice. And well, how many can they catch there? Like at the Olympic Games, let's say, like the Olympic Games, they get tested really strictly there. Everything in the National Hockey League, Continental Hockey League, they're just in their own bubble.
I had an acquaintance, a famous hockey player, I won't say who, and he told me how he used to always carry his 2-year-old daughter's urine with him, so that if he got stopped somewhere on the road, he could use it for a test.
Yeah, football players in that sense were always, well, really, we could never allow ourselves anything like that. So if we're talking about drugs, everyone always told me about like ayahuasca. Everyone talks about ayahuasca or like dimethyltryptamine. And so at some point I kind of caught on to all that. I thought, damn, when I finish my career, when I'm at a more conscious age, I'll definitely try dimethyltryptamine. Well, I wanted to try ayahuasca, but they say the after effects are so rough that I'm a bit afraid of it. Again, you have to go somewhere, to some shamans, so that the shamans accept you there.
A service already brings a shaman to Moscow.
Recently, some friends told me about this, and I said, that's wonderful. You don't have to travel to Ecuador or nearby. What's most frustrating is, after traveling halfway around the world, the shaman tells you 4 of you are ready, but 2 aren't. So you made the trip just to...
But it's not like they just found some guy, maybe a buryat from the sausage shop, dressed him up and decorated him. Most likely.
In Ecuador, no. I think that in Moscow it's more likely to be a buryat. They'll meet you there, say, hey, come on, give you some kind of soup, and you'll just throw up for 3 hours, and they'll say it was cool. That's what I'm afraid of.
About Conor, let me read what Joe Rogan said. Well, I think you know who Joe Rogan is. He takes off his shirt and is always posing, and he looks like his test results would melt the doping test cup. Why is United States anti-doping agency sometimes so biased? Objectively, there are athletes who are just terrorized by doping controls. Really terrorized. But him, he hasn't been tested at all for 2 years. He wanted to, he joined, he didn't want to, he left the pool. I mean, it's just not very fair. And even when he was in it, he wasn't tested as often as our guys like Petya Petryan.
Like Sanya. During the preparation period, they get tested 5-6 times before the fight, right after the fight. Well...
Again, we're talking about big names. You have to agree.
About big names, you have to agree.
If it's Conor McGregor, people approve, but if it's Peter Yan, they'll just say he got caught. All Russian fans will be upset, others may comment, but if it's Conor McGregor, it casts a shadow on the whole organization and involves huge money. Everyone wants to fight Conor. That's just someone who keeps getting challenged even though he hasn't fought in 2 years.
Anderson was caught too, same thing.
He started falling apart right when we began this topic, losing as soon as doping tests were introduced.
Well, many at that time, yes, you and I talked about it, many at that time.
Belfort, just look at how he was before and how he was after. Well, it's obvious.
Well, a lot. Well, I think that's where...
this kind of sport is.
We hope that someday we will come to the point where mixed martial arts...
All organizations should unite for this, though it's quite costly as far as I know.
It's expensive, but ours is fine. They check. We have Russian anti-doping agency there. It's funny. Bodybuilding is official. Well, guys, bodybuilding, what is there to check? Well, 100% they come selectively and pick someone just, like a sacrifice. The dragon flew in, and there.
There will be someone to blame.
They say someone spent half a year preparing, getting in shape, and is told to go, but in the end tries to negotiate. It's a disgrace, but it's obvious anyway. Someone just like him wins. And then they disqualify him, saying it's for diuretics or something. Well, it's nonsense.
Well, listen, all cyclical sports take them, it's just nonsense. When all the Norwegians are asthmatics and we're the dopers, well, it's just a circus the Norwegians are running around there. These Norwegians, with their just like lunatics, they miss 5 shots and keep running like nothing happened. I mean, they're considered clean, and that's all cyclical sports, all supposedly fair.
Only Greg Hardy, I think, was some kind of knockout. He's sitting there out of breath and they give him an inhaler and he says,
The inhaler puffed. They didn't disqualify him or anything. I think he just got some kind of penalty. I'm saying
there's a lot of this here, like how to turn things around in many sports.
either allow it or ban it. If we're talking, well, yeah, if we're talking about some kind of fairness, then we should get rid of both doping and weight cutting so that no one has to cut weight, and then we'll find out
who is who. Well, that's why I might be biased, of course, like any big guy who's over 90 kilograms himself. That's why I say that, hypothetically, in the UFC, the heavyweight is always the strongest man in the world. Right now, for example, Ngannou is there, and that's real. Yeah, not everyone would want to face him. Like, still, Conor McGregor, if you see him, even in a bar, you might say, yeah, you're just a little guy, so you might still go at him, even if he's 1.97 or 1.95 meters tall. But still, anyone would say, damn, you could try, like, if you see Ngannou or even Kolya Volozhev, you'd say, Nikolai, much respect, yeah, even a bear. I think if a bear's den comes across Nikolai, they'd say, well, treat Nikolai with respect, of course, but don't abuse his hospitality.
You hear me? What about age? I've noticed that maybe if I'm wrong somewhere, I'm not a professional, so correct me in MMA. So, the older you get, the higher the weight classes you can compete in, generally speaking. Most often, the young and energetic guys are in the lighter weight classes. So, it becomes harder to compete at the top level when you're, let's say, a flyweight, like 60 or 70 kilograms. And you're like 45 years old. But at the same time, being 45 in the super heavyweight division is different, because in super heavyweight, there are a lot of older athletes.
in the heavier weight classes, yes, I agree.
And why is that?
Well, the speeds are different.
That is, because of that, there are weight cuts?
There are no weight cuts.
Then why is that?
On average, they have a longer, I would even say much longer athletic career, because after all, weight cutting takes a huge toll on your health.
But they win, it turns out, because by that age they become more experienced and they still have enough speed.
They still have enough speed. Naturally, well, I can't say that by that age he'll definitely be more experienced. In any case, all the indicators go down. You understand that too, right? Yes.
Of course.
And the longer you keep it there, the same strength goes away. The longer you stay flexible, pliable, yes, the longer your joints will last, the more attention you pay to this recovery. That's where we started. Yes, the longer you'll last in this sport. That's why. But still, of course, a young, youthful, hungry for victory 25-year-old who has his own testosterone. Maybe there's also an older guy coming in, someone who's already seen a lot, maybe also tired. It matters, I think. Just take someone like Silla. I think he lost simply because he was already tired of it. The same goes for the boxer Junior John A.
Roy Jones?
Roy Jones, he also dominated everyone in 2 weight classes. He was there, and at some point he just lost his drive.
Well...
Yeah, maybe that's also why.
In my opinion, he tried to get into it at quite a mature age, somewhere even higher, and he immediately got hit back.
But one time he won in the ties, he did it.
Regarding aging, there are different theories, different types of aging. But just so you understand, in the last 15-20 years, in all other fields of science, we've made such big steps forward. But in aging, we have practically learned nothing new. But it comes down to the fact that, essentially, the previous approach was that you needed to take something, you needed to do as much as possible to improve your health. In reality, now everything is shifting more in that direction. The most important thing is to use it properly and carefully. In other words, like with a car, just use it in good conditions. Because everything you do with your body, absolutely any movement, any heartbeat, it all leads to wear and tear. So the main goal of anti-aging longevity is to do everything in a way that causes as little damage as possible. Well, there's the principle of do no harm. That's actually the main principle of longevity. Things like sauna and everything else are beneficial, but basically they just soften the harm that you've already done.
As you're talking, for some reason it occurred to me, if I'm wrong, please correct me. I think right now, the number one thing for the new generation is above all a different attitude toward alcoholism. I think that's really the key point. Yes,
It's important, I think.
that the previous generation just drank themselves silly. They drank like crazy. I mean, they're actually proud of it in all kinds of sports that we drank. And damn, we played and played. And then you see, by the time they're 30, 40, 45, almost all of them have heart problems. Almost all of them I think it's the alcohol abuse that plays a role.
I found a very interesting article on this topic, and the author is Kari, a very famous scientist. And he proved that if we're not just talking about alcohol, but about drugs, addiction isn't just chemical. And as usual, we've accepted this idea in our heads since childhood, that if you try heroin or some drug just once, that's it. Thank God I never messed around with it, I never wanted to, but I always thought in my head that yes, it's really something that if you try it, you'll be hooked and go through withdrawal. But in fact, research shows completely different things. Initially, just so you understand where it all started, the first studies took rodents in a cage and gave them, let's say, 2 bottles of water. One had regular water and the other had water, plus drugs, and they started drinking the water with drugs, and within 2 weeks they would use themselves up. Yes, use themselves up. They overdosed, died.
I think many people have already climbed into the cage.
Yes, it was a long time ago, but everyone was bothered by something. There, many people end up in the hospital after serious car accidents, after burns. They spend months on drugs. You know a lot of drug addicts who became addicts after being in the hospital. I didn't know anyone like that at all. We give all patients drugs before surgeries. It's called pre-medication. Many patients receive a fairly large amount of narcotics, but they don't become addicts. That's the first factor. I'll explain why later.
Alexander, honestly, I just thought that I really need to be friends with you. You have amazing access to everything. When I finish my career, Alexander, we'll be even closer friends.
Look beyond wars, all the great ones. If you look at World War II, the war in Vietnam, a huge number of people who are at war try to escape all of this through drugs. That's why many drink a lot, use needles and take drugs. But, according to statistics, out of 100% of those who used, if we look at Vietnam, there are statistics, but we don't have any for ours. Since everything is closed here, we didn't have that, but over there the statistics are available, 85–90%. They used, meaning when they stopped using, after they returned, they quit. They stopped and didn't use anymore. Yes, of course, there are 10–15% whose lives are ruined. And we came to the conclusion that, in fact, our environment has the greatest influence. That's why it's very important who you associate with. When they say that in a group of so-called addicts or something like that, people don't turn to drugs and alcohol because life is good. Most often, they want to escape from some kind of reality, from the hardships that exist in life.
Listen, Sasha, I don't agree with you here. You know, sometimes in a family of alcoholics, a child grows up to be an alcoholic, whether it's a boy or a girl. But there are many cases where that's not true. No, there are such cases. I believe it depends entirely on the person. I mean, I'll tell you, I grew up in that kind of neighborhood since I was 10 years old. You know, unfortunately, half of them are already gone. May they rest in peace. They died from drugs. They tried all sorts of things. It got to the point where we joked, saying we had our own Formula One racers. Those guys who injected all kinds of crazy stuff into themselves. You know, my whole neighborhood was they all smoked. They would sit there with me smoking, puffing, doing something. I never did it in my life, but my husband did.
It's not about what you think. It's not just that people around you are smoking and drinking. It's your psychological environment, your mood, like how comfortable or uncomfortable you feel.
We're moving away from thinking it's just a weakness in some people.
For example, they took rats and repeated experiments, this time providing the same rats with extremely comfortable conditions. A little fountain with water, plenty of food, other rats running around, some greenery, everything is nice and beautiful, and again 2 barrels of water. Which one do you think they started drinking when everything around them was good and wonderful?
They told me that they really drank the good water, yes.
They began drinking clean water, some with drugs, but used very little.
Well, that means at least they're not idiots. Those rats aren't being tested for nothing. Yeah, not for nothing. At least, yeah.
Listen.
That's true, really. That's exactly how it is.
Yeah, it really exists. Here's the internet. Go read about it.
Well, we should come to that. Sometimes you have a situation where everything is bad, right? Sometimes you're just in the middle. We can't just set up little fountains for everyone like for rats. We really can't do that for many people.
So right now, here with you, we're creating this good background. That's why I'm doing all this. You're doing it. Taras is doing it. Because sports, everything around sports, it's promotion, it's good, it's right. It's not just that a person starts doing sports, it's really in principle. If he gets some kind of family in the form of a sports community, his own sports club, a hobby, a team, there's less chance. The chance that he'll break down is 100% lower.
Well, first of all, I think every person should have, in a normal way, you should have, no matter how bad things get, you definitely need to have a core. You need to understand what's right and what's wrong. My instinct for self-preservation saved me too. I was just simply afraid.
Well, did it just appear in you? That's the question. A core can't just appear in you out of nowhere, can it? So it still depends on who your father is, how he develops, how he forms. Listen, but no, you see, people
Who are, even from orphanages, who become really successful and awesome. I think it just depends on the person. If you really want something, really. Now everyone talks about it, and it's become so cliche that there's nothing impossible. Believe in yourself. These phrases have become so overused that everyone is like, yeah, right, just sit down already. Come on, it's real, everyone argues like that, like, yeah, right, just sit down. These trainings, guys, it's real. No normal person will go and say, listen, a success story, nobody cares about that. Now everyone needs something else. Like when you freak out, like when you cry your eyes out, now everyone sees it when they look at him. Toxic, selfish, it's all there. See, you understand, now we live in a world where people want the bad stuff. You get what you're trying to do right now. And we came to visit you. Thanks for inviting us. This audience, there are fewer and fewer of us like this, the ones who don't necessarily have to do sports,
Sorry, I interrupted you. If we were talking about something else, something bad right now, I think the ratings would just skyrocket.
And if we undressed here and you were just sitting there while we undressed, the ratings would go through the roof. We're just saying that people should have something inside, something good should overcome the bad. I'm convinced of this. I understand that sometimes there seem to be hopeless situations, but at some point the sun will come out. And that's what you need to fight, not escape into alcohol. In fact, even alcoholics, they say it themselves, they understand. At some point you realize that when you turn to drugs or alcohol, it's just for a moment. And really, the scariest thing is that you become a hostage to something. You turn into, you're a person, we're supposed to be different. Yeah, like you go in, just to eat something, right?
Even mice choose a fountain,
Yeah, even mice understand that if everything is fine, why should I stress out, right? If everything is here, if all of this exists. I think we should come to that realization too. People, there should be some kind of kindness, that we need to fight against all this negativity. No, having a drink sometimes is even good in moderation. I actually discovered alcohol for myself during the pandemic, like having a glass of wine. It's when you start feeling good, that edge, it's actually pretty cool, like you're all positive. But again, for some people, it's the opposite. Yeah, they become negative. Yeah, we can get together for New Year's, have some wine, try to finish a bottle together and feel pretty happy. But that doesn't mean, again, that most of our friends, even people we know, they cross the line, they get drunk. Well, that's not normal.
Overton's rule, Overton, it's like any phenomenon can go from being the most disgusting, revolting thing to becoming some kind of standard and norm. Well, for example, yeah, it can be a vivid one. Yeah, I don't consider myself a homophobe at all, not even once, but this is a good example. Let's look at attitudes in the world as a whole in the 80s, in the 90s, yeah, even in Europe, and now this didn't happen suddenly. And there are stages there. The first stage is called unthinkable, meaning like, no, it's impossible. The second is radical. That is, well, it happens, yes, it happens, and people gradually move toward it. The third stage is when it's called acceptable, then reasonable, then popular, and the last one is the state norm. And here's a simple example. Yes, well, like the same pedophilia now, from afar, people are already starting to say that, well, after all, it's just that some, there.
Just peculiarities.
Yes.
Peculiarities.
It's a kind of illness.
And believe me, if we don't put a stop to this, from coming from the unthinkable to the norm, yes, before, let's say, the age of voluntary, entry into marriage was lower. Back then, because, there was a birth rate crisis. After the war, they temporarily lowered it. Or, for example, it's wild here. Among the Roma, they recently sent me a video. There's a guy standing there. He doesn't even have a mustache yet. Nothing. So, the boy is about 11 years old and next to him is the bride. I swear, she's a head taller than him, with such big breasts, and she's probably around, 18 or 19 really, and he's just a child.
Just a child with a smile on his face, really just a kid.
For me that's not normal, but for many people it is. Even in literature, there are many stories like Beauty and the Beast. At first she hated him, then she started treating him normally, and then she fell in love with him. It's the same with the coronavirus. Remember how we reacted when told to wear masks and that it was dangerous. Look at how gradually we came to accept it, that this is how things should be. Masks, yes, and so on. Everything is allowed, and it goes both ways. And that's why now, when people aren't supposed to drink, they're drinking anyway. Yes, it didn't happen by accident. I think it's because sports have become popular in the country. We didn't have any popular sports in our country. Everything related to sports was criticized. We got champions in mixed martial arts, and we started winning in football. Well, honestly, I think that's 70% of the reason why fewer people are drinking now. It's not due to pictures on cigarette packs. People always knew cigarettes were harmful and cause cancer. This social background, I just think it's very important. Do you really think not many people are watching us? No, a lot of people will watch us, many will watch.
Wonderful, these people are positive, good. Honestly, just listen, I wouldn't want to look at it from this side.
By the way, do you know why I started this? Sorry for changing the subject to transgender people, but here I am. How do we feel about this in sports now? Well, admit it, it's funny. Let's imagine, Frances Ngannou goes up against a lady, no matter how much of a super champion she is. Well, she's a woman. If we're talking about equality, well, he'll just kill her. Simply.
Yeah, no, well, take tennis for example. Serena Williams, who for 5 years was dominating everyone, as I heard, in practice matches, the 200th ranked male player just wiped the floor with her.
Yeah, there was some women's soccer team. I think they were ranked second or third in the world. They say women's soccer is cool. What do you know about that? Maybe you've heard about it.
Yes.
And there was some kind of youth team, like the second to last 16-year-old guys, they just crushed them like 5-0 or something. Well,
that's just, well, I mean...
Yeah, right now we react to this pretty strongly. Yeah, transgender people, gender change, all that. But in general, what's your attitude? Should they be allowed after all? Here's a person who, let's say, feels like a woman. He's a big guy, went and got breast implants among women.
We're going back, again, in the 80s and 90s, this was officially considered like some degree of schizophrenia. I mean, it used to be called an illness. They treated it, right? They treated it, and now it's considered like normal. Well, it's not normal. If we keep going like this, then soon it'll be normal to have sex with animals, you know? So there are just no boundaries anymore.
You know what they say? They say you're depriving people of the opportunity to love, to have children.
Well, that's just a matter of personal choice.
The right to choose?
That's just schizophrenia. When now they want in America or already somewhere in the States, they're introducing that a child doesn't even have to wait until adulthood and can, like, at just 10 years old say, basically, I feel like I'm Marinka there. And I've seen a lot of videos where parents speak out and say, I will tell my son or daughter what to do until they're 18, including things like where they are and what time they'll go to bed. And that's normal. Yes, I think there's actually some kind of global, huge movement going on to drastically reduce the world's population. There's this massive propaganda spreading like a disease.
Do you believe in conspiracy theories? Yes.
100%.
Here's a simple example. Let me know your thoughts. Testosterone standards are lowered every year. They don't try to improve the numbers. They don't try to somehow improve the nation's health. To say, guys, you have low testosterone, you need this, you need that, prescribed therapy. They say no, now the standard is like this. That's a simple example. Yesterday, a very famous comedian reached out to me. I checked him out. He wrote to me. I said, I have a 7-month waiting list. But I told him, let's do it without waiting. And we were messaging at night. He said he sent his test results. He said everything was fine. He did a checkup and they told him everything was fine. He sent us his results, and according to the standard ranges, maybe everything looks fine. But in reality, for what he actually needs, it's one-third, or about 40%. There, let's say the normal value is at least 12, but in many labs they already write 8. If I don't quickly correct the standards, it's at the lab level. That's what a person goes and gets tested for. I mean, who determines these standards? Previously, they would just take an average from the population and say, here's the average number for Russia.
At the global level?
Global, yes, global.
So you say 12, right?
12. Right now, there are already 8 in the lab, but in reality, you actually need 20 plus. You need 20 plus. If research shows that testosterone levels, say theoretically 100-150 years ago, were on average 35 to 40% higher than they are now. Explain.
How this happens, how it can be suppressed like that, or rather, how not to suppress it.
But look, for example, what do we eat as kids? Or what if you have identical twin brothers? One trains mixed martial arts with Taras and the other does drawing. One will be told that he needs to be a certain way, to be raised like that, and the other will be told that there is equality. Be light, be gentle, be good, everyone will just pat you on the head. As they say, a wolf is not raised in the kennel. And accordingly, believe me, their hormone levels will be different. And accordingly, why am I against the fact that they don't show what a real man should be like, a real man, what values he should have, that he should do sports and so on? Because our future suffers because of this. Look at how young people look nowadays, who our idols used to be. There was Schwarzenegger, Stallone, big guys. And now who is it, Morgenstern?
No, it's actually Danya Milukin. Let's go to the one painting her nails.
And they also paint their nails. I don't mind, you know. They say sometimes you have to hit rock bottom, become a total degenerate, so you can push off from there.
The main point is, even beneath us, there are already Milukins and Morgensterns knocking from below.
In reality, yes, I think about this often too, and we've talked about it, you and I have discussed it as well. There are no heroes now for a boy, yes, like we used to have. Yes, like you just said, from Bruce Lee to Schwarzenegger.
And Steven Seagal, damn it, Chuck Norris.
And Jackie Chan, if we come across him in the furniture,
he'll take anyone down, no problem.
And now I don't even know who to look up to, who to try to be like.
It's tough for us with all this internet stuff and all these things. I have nothing against esports, but still.
I think it's also destroying marriage and families.
Yeah, values are treated like leasing, one today, another tomorrow.
When a child grows up, only in a female environment, raised by his mother, well, if that mother understands what a boy needs, that's good.
Yes.
It's hard. Well, and a dandelion grows up, because I see young people come, they're winter kids, in an open field, he can't even sit down to take a proper dump, because he's never squatted lower than a toilet.
That's why nowadays you can't even raise your voice at young people. Well, it's not recommended. They get lost, they get upset. Can you imagine, back in our day you could act up, they'd chew you out, maybe even smack you in the shower, maybe even give you a slap, and you'd take it as normal. It's just how it was, like...
It's like that everywhere. It's the same in medicine. I mean, where I was brought up at the school, at the urology department, it was just like the army, really like the army. Hazing in the literal sense of the word, yeah, it was tough, but I learned a lot, and they made a real surgeon out of me, someone with backbone. And when they ask, what about this, or that's not there, that hospital was closed, this hospital was closed, all the teachers were let go, and what? Nothing good comes of it. I'll share a short, interesting story from protivareza.ru, and you can judge if it's true. I was in my office when my former department head sent me a former high-ranking official. Their hospital couldn't treat oncology, so he sent him to me. The patient arrives with tumors, I say okay, and during the appointment he asks if I want to hear an interesting story. I used to work over there, and my job was basically to take our entire central staff for treatment, and he says there was this scientist somewhere, I don't remember exactly, but he says he used to take people there. And so, either from some kind of treatment or based on something, he invented some kind of medicine, and he said it cured all oncology. My wife, they brought her there on a stretcher. She couldn't stand up. Everyone had basically given up on her, but he got her back on her feet in 6 weeks, and she lived for another 10 years after that, I think. And someone, he said, one of our former mayors came there too, and he said, just point to any spot on the map of Moscow. I'll give you an apartment there. Just save me. In the end, I think it was cognac or something like that. But that's not the point. I said, so where is this medicine? He said, unfortunately, he passed away. Otherwise, I would have gone to him myself, but before he died, I tried to push this through and reached out to different pharmaceutical companies. And he said that people thought we were crazy. They told us that even if it's true, if we publish it today, tomorrow we'll just be crushed like that. So, no. In the end, he sent it to Germany for some kind of research, maybe spectral analysis, I don't remember. I said, are there any results? I said, listen, well, he said, I think there are, I'll check, I have it saved somewhere, I'll bring it to you. Well, I thought, interesting, I'll figure it out for myself, what's there, how, why. About 4 days later, the deadline comes, this was 4 or 5 years ago, 4 days pass. We agreed that he would come, but he doesn't show up. I call, the phone is off, so I call the head doctor. Well, you know, a person with cancer disappears, anything could have happened, the person could have had a heart attack or a stroke, but I'm kind of a conspiracy theorist. Yeah, my first thought was that the person was supposed to bring me, let's say, a cancer medicine to show me, something that could be shown to people. He called me and said, I found it, meaning he found it and he was supposed to come. I said, you found it, bring it to me. And then he disappeared and never showed up again, never showed up again. A guy came to see me recently, a tall professional volleyball player. I asked him why he came. He was about 2.10 meters tall, I think. I even have a photo.
Well, they're really kind of like that. Well, with men, with guys, it's still okay, honestly. But with girls, yeah, it's kind of, well, something's just off, yeah. Genetic error, that's not the right word.
He grew, I asked. He grew by centimeters. I think he said 17 in 3 months over the summer somehow.
How is that even possible?
You know, your kid grows by 17 centimeters. I mean, it's like he left, came back from his grandma's.
And the camp shorts.
Pants.
Shorts like Hulk.
And I don't use anything.
No, just like it was. That's not very good because the internal organs, ligaments and joints don't have time to fully adapt, so they end up looking very unusual.
That's what I mean. You can tell it's hard for them to move, especially taller ones. See that basketball player? He can't even run properly.
It's a sport, actually. I wanted to ask you about that. Does it help with development?
Of course, well...
For example, swimming. Yes, all swimmers, they're all lean, tall, angular, right? Basketball players, they're all tall. So it's exactly the activity, the technique, the jumping, the constant striving upwards. It somehow affects growth, everything.
Well, the foundation is genetics, but basically how you're going to look, like what your shoulder girdle will be like. There are times in life when, due to certain hormone levels and cell insensitivity, changes can go in different directions. And naturally, depending on the type of loads you use, how you train yourself, how you behave, you can change visually. That is, training in weightlifting from the age of 3, or for example doing swimming from the age of 3. You will look completely different in terms of your bone structure. You will look different. And that's kind of normal. So look, swimmers, many of them, as you correctly pointed out, have broad shoulders, a narrow waist. Well, of course, it's the bones. Still, genetics are there, but you can change one way or another.
There are no such giants. I mean, they're all about 1.90 m, obviously tall, but there aren't any that are 225, basically, yeah, with someone who's 225, row, but they're already a bit different. Our bodies aren't made for that. Being over 2 meters is already difficult for a person.
They have hernias, a bunch of problems, I'm telling you.
It's hard to run, hard to move around. Everything is different. Even there, look, now in tennis, no matter how huge you are.
You love tennis?
I really love it. It's like a hobby, I found my hobby. I just enjoy it. I just played paddle now. Well, I played it before. It's a great game too, but still, tennis is really, really special to me.
And have you participated in championships?
Listen, I took part in some amateur ones, played with the guys. 2-on-2, it's interesting, and you play 1-on-1 too. So yeah, I participated. It's been 3 months, and once I even placed. But sometimes you run into people who are basically like cheaters, not really amateurs anymore, kind of too bad for the pros, but way too good for the amateurs. That's the worst part. When you run into someone like that, you think, well, there's no fun in it. But overall, it's interesting to challenge yourself. Like when some coach comes in, yeah, and you fight for every game, and you really enjoy it, you snatch the win, and they get fired up too. It's just great.
When I was a kid, I played tennis for 4 years. Using those wooden rackets, yeah, they were heavy, and because of that, my wrists got wider.
By the way, they actually have their own kind of workload and specifics there too, really, seriously.
I remembered the basketball player, the volleyball player, because he showed me his test results. I noticed hormone issues and discussed them with him and his doctor. He came from the professional team and gave me his jersey as a gift. I said, he looks at this and says, everything's okay. Yeah, he says, more often, just rest more. I said, is he joking or what? Like what? Sleep more. He needs treatment. That is, there are indications for hormone replacement therapy. Objectively, with the kind of sport he's doing, it's just not enough for him. This level is below normal. And I asked him, I said, listen, let's do something about this level. He says, we have Russian anti-doping agency there. I said, okay, I'll write an official letter stating that you have indications. You'll send it to Russian anti-doping agency and say, I have this condition. A verified, documented, officially confirmed hypogonadism, that is, a deficiency of sex hormones. The doctor prescribed this treatment for me. Is it allowed or not? So, I have a question. How do you feel about this in general? Because, on the one hand, I don't consider the person to be unnatural. He shouldn't compete with natural athletes even if hormone replacement therapy keeps his testosterone normal, since he doesn't rely on natural testosterone recovery. That is, he will always have testosterone because he's injecting it, so his levels will always be normal. So, even if he didn't rest, didn't recover properly, didn't get enough sleep, or didn't recover psychologically, his testosterone will never drop. So I'm curious, Taras, what's your opinion?
Well, again, as we said before, all asthmatics in team sports, it was the same for fighters too. I remember all the doctors had a certificate. At least you could see this with the Western guys, that they had to inject themselves with testosterone, but not everyone should have to. Again, I think it's just like doping. It should somehow be allowed if a person really needs it. And he passed the official medical commission, yes, and this medical commission is really honest, that's true. But if like all asthmatics and everyone needs it, well, that's also kind of like doping, you know.
Well, I would also add that the main thing here, I'm speaking now, from what I've heard, what worries me most actually is sports medicine. Really, yes, that's the main thing.
That was for you.
It's a disaster.
Why?
As you say, veterinarians.
We often jokingly call it just a gang of veterinarians, especially if there's an injection, they give it in the butt, well, you know, like that guy, Multaev, they throw darts. Yeah, like this one, 60, then 100, 100, you know, when they give it. Well, I don't know, they're just weak, you know, sports medicine.
What do you mean weak? Look, there's a budget.
They're just terrible, they just hire anyone, I don't know. Out of 10, you might meet one competent person, and the rest are just there because of connections or something like that. Old school, it's a nightmare, really a nightmare. The current generation at least tries to learn something, to gain some knowledge, and even now there are many, many of them. You spend 3 or 4 weeks on the internet, take some course, and you already get a diploma. Now it's all about diplomas. Bam, you took some course, like VITA courses or something. That's it, 3 or 4 weeks. You just listen. I think that's a big problem, whether it's due to connections or something else.
Qualified specialists. Now there is an opportunity to study and develop in this direction. From the mixed martial arts point of view, 100%. Artem will talk about football. There is the old school, which unfortunately is very hard to let go of. And there are such conservatives.
Tough old-timers, yes, tough old-timers.
Conservatives who, well, they don't accept the way they used to train back in the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, you know, that's how they're going to keep training. Now everything is changing so much.
So much has... Meldonium won't let me lie. They took it. I was always amazed. You're really sitting there with this old crew, the ones you always respect, and you say, I have only one question. Why does everyone take Meldonium? Does it actually do anything? No, not at all, not even a little. Why do you give it then? Well, everyone gave it, so we give it too. But that's just, come on, that's kind of weird. And now almost all the athletes are on snooze? It just blows my mind, I'm telling you, I'm explaining. So you're saying everyone switched to those yellow electronic things, and now you're getting bombarded with snooze. When I was young, everyone used chewing tobacco, and once I foolishly tried it and thought I was going to die. That experience put me off for good. We were somewhere at a training camp in Belarus, and there were about 15 of us sitting in a room, and everyone put in 4 at once. If it doesn't work under the upper lip, they try the lower, and if 2 don't work, they add more under the lip or tongue. I'm just sitting there thinking, are you guys crazy? I said, that's crap, it's goat's weak stuff, come on, yeah, come on. And basically, they were trying to get me to try it, and I said, well, okay, what is it that you have there? It started to burn me. I felt so bad. Honestly, I think I've never felt that awful in my life. Now I look around, and everyone is on snooze. What's the deal? I've heard that it's really dangerous.
Lip cancer. It's harmful. Yes, nicotine causes lip cancer. And besides that, it's also a psychostimulant. Basically, it goes vegetovascular dystonia. On top of that, I'm not even talking about how it looks. They all look like Bugs Bunny, 2 teeth, but not white. Yellow ones, you can see them right away, that's nothing good.
Again, they bring it in from Europe in bulk. It's just so easy, accessible, simple. I see it. I remember even when you go abroad, everyone just throws it away there. This army and this box of snooze, it's just, when I look at them, it's not normal. Or these trendy ones now, oh.
Vapes, it's just a nightmare. It's
basically murder.
In general, than vapes? They seem harmless. And if cigarettes, let's say a child, if you tell him cigarettes are harmful, he'll say, of course they're harmful, it's written right on the pack. But with vapes, all the idols smoke, people around them smoke. And for the most part, they're not forbidden to smoke. He's standing next to you, puffing away in a restaurant. They all see it and it looks harmless. And it even seems like there's some kind of healthy flavor. Yeah, but in reality, there's nothing healthy about it. And people used to think cigarettes were healthy too. And even in hospitals, they recommended smoking them because it relaxes the nervous system. Then, over the years, people started to realize that things weren't so great.
I can imagine back in those days, some woman just sitting there lighting up her 20th cigarette just to calm herself down. No, but you see, again, it all comes back to the fact that all this stuff like snus comes from somewhere. We didn't even know about this snus before. Well, for example, let me jump ahead a bit. Like in football, the physical training coach used to always be just the assistant coach who'd have you stretch a bit, warm up, and then say, go play. But now the warm-up alone can take 40-50 minutes, and by the time you even get to the ball, you might already hate it. A lot of kids can end up hating it. Football, when are we actually going to play? Let's play something already. And usually, they're not even football people. They're top professionals in their own field, and most of them are foreigners. They're not from football. They're from marathons and don't understand football specifics. They're just universal soldiers.
It's often the same with football players.
Like this.
There's no transfer. I mean, in terms of transfer, well, you're responsible for physical training, well, you're in charge of physical training. But a football player, a mixed martial arts fighter, a swimmer, they all have different physical training, their own, specific. There's general physical training and there's specific physical training. And often they confuse this general training with the one that's actually needed. That is, there are often a lot of exercises that, for example, a football player doesn't need to do.
Yes, what? Walk more now, excuse me, I'll interrupt. When we met, I was offered to meet with Volkov to have a full training session right here. Listen, at first I thought this, yes, what? It's a good level. I can handle it easily. On easy mode, but when they started that stretching, and this, in this regard, we're athletes, mostly football players especially, we're really not flexible, not good at stretching. I mean, there are individuals who are, but overall, it's really, well, like Buratino, honestly. I mean, it's hard for us. Our knees hurt, we can't squat properly and all that, but somehow we manage to do it all. You think, you'll stand there for 3 rounds, maybe do a little sparring with Volkom. I don't think he would have killed me, because honestly, he weighs 120 kilos and I weigh 97. Those 23 kilos, it's like you're going up against King Kong. Seriously. And the biggest paradox is, that's the specificity of every profession. For me, that's really how it is. Since then, I just never shout nearby anymore. Like, something died there, a towel in the 3rd round, someone is preparing something, a clown in German, you'll last like 3 minutes, 3 rounds, 2.5 minutes each, and I'm like, I could go 10 rounds if I wanted. They say, everything's fine, now put on the mouth guard. As soon as I put on the mouth guard, a minute later, like after 10 seconds, I started to suffocate. Simply because we don't breathe the way they do.
Of course.
We breathe with our mouth, sorry to say, sometimes even with our ass. I mean, you might even forget to breathe at some point just to breathe. But here it's completely different.
It's different when it flies by, right?
There's more. Okay, in his own way, the wolf didn't really do anything to me. But when I ran into him once, I noticed his eyes were filling with blood. At that point, I started saying my last rites for myself, but at least he had enough sense and he laughed at me. They all laughed. The wolves, all of them, like I'm the bear clown for Letopol. And then, after some time, we met again on the soccer field. And believe me, compared to how they looked on the soccer field, I was just a great fighter. Artyom Jones Jr., Artyom McGregor, because it's a different kind of activity, and there they get even more out of breath, and the ball is flying around, and they're like, the wolf is in goal. It was like a ghost, Casper, whom I never actually saw catch anything, so it was funny. That's how specific and specialized each profession is.
By the way, I already prepared a question in advance. So, in soccer there are teams, and in fights we have what's called styles make fights, as they say, like styles make. So, if a good wrestler faces a boxer, for example, most likely the wrestler will win, but if a boxer faces another boxer, it's basically up to luck. So first I'm curious, is there something like that in soccer, where a team can beat almost everyone, but they just can't handle a certain style of play? Because in mixed martial arts it happens that you usually know your opponent in advance, and you prepare specifically for them. Like, he's a lefty, or that he likes to go for takedowns, so you prepare specifically for his style, and he prepares for you.
They have that too, just differently.
Well, yeah, there's tactics. I mean, there are tough opponents, that's true, but it's not like that, like you hear lately, like supposedly now. That Pereira beat Adesanya, and before that he beat him twice more, 3 times. And now everyone is coming to the conclusion that Adesanya just can't beat him stylistically. I mean, he just can't. Honestly, I
don't believe that. Let me interrupt you. I listened to his interview. He says, I'm saying this for the first time, but I want you to know, in my professional kickboxing, or amateur, He says, I won a large number of fights there, and I won all of them by knockout. And I only lost 3 times, and all 3 times I lost to the same person. And I read, yes, and Adesanya says, you just have to accept it, that it's not just a simple matter. So for him, I'm basically the same kind of person as that guy is for me. And he says, if I meet that guy again now, he'll probably beat me again.
I say that in soccer there's no such thing, stylistically speaking. Some play on the ground, some play a more physical, high style.
So you don't prepare differently in terms of physical training because this team is more active or plays defensively.
Actually, ideally, any team should start from themselves, from their own strengths. You have to be confident in yourself and still you prepare a plan.
Well, in sports?
Well, yes, but you also analyze. You know your opponent's weaknesses, he knows yours. It's just about who takes better advantage of them, basically. Well, like they say in football, on a certain day in a certain match, any team can beat any other team. Basically, that's what the man of the world is showing right now. When Morocco is already in the quarterfinals, everyone was shouting that these clowns would be knocked out right away. That's true. Again, physical fitness is number 1 right now. You still have to be 100% physically ready to compete at any level. You have to be physically prepared. Then comes your equipment, technical skills, psychological skills, but still, above all, I would put psychology first. And in any sport, stop.
In wrestling, sometimes a fighter is asked, why did you lose? I didn't train wrestling for him. I thought we would fight standing up. Well, sometimes it happens that a person, let's say, has been doing martial arts for 20 years, and suddenly, in the last, 2 months, he probably paid more attention to stand-up than to grappling. The question is, can just 2 months without really active wrestling training really have such a big impact on the result?
Yes, I agree, because even if you don't spar for a week, you already start to lose your sense of distance and contact. If you don't play football for a couple of weeks, you just can't handle the ball.
Let's say if you don't play for a month.
You still need some time to get used to it. You need everything else too. Plus, we're talking about professional sports. Yeah, I mean, this person is the best. He has the best wrestling skills specifically in this weight category. Yes, and you have to understand that even if you have a good level of wrestling, you have good physical conditioning, and you go up against someone whose wrestling is top-notch. First and foremost, you have to be ready for his wrestling 100% so that he doesn't surprise you. But at the same time, you shouldn't forget about your own strengths, meaning you have to play your own game. Like Artyom said, you have to impose your own style. But also, don't forget that this guy always has something up his sleeve. He has submissions or chokes, and it's better not to get caught in those, not to get choked at all.
It would be short-sighted to say I'm not ready to wrestle him. We're going to fight. Did you really think I wasn't prepared for your wrestling?
They say that I'm not with.
You must be prepared for this functionality. Mistakes aren't allowed.
Like you said, explain. Let's say McGregor, the same McGregor, let's say, betrayed himself with Khabib. Yes, let's say that's the other side of the coin.
Well, I think that McGregor lost. Not because I'm not downplaying Khabib's wrestling skills. He really has top-level wrestling, but because McGregor didn't impose his own game. That is, again, there's this rule. We fight or spar or play with the team or opponent only as much as they allow us to. Right, but the right to dictate your own story, your own game, you have to earn that yourself. It's the same in team games or when you're playing as the lead like in martial arts. If you want to achieve something, you have to impose your own.
Focus on yourself and achieve more.
McGregor lost the whole fight. I understand.
He tried to show the whole world that he wouldn't let a takedown happen. Well.
And he was thinking about how to avoid getting taken down.
But what he needed to do?
Knowing that...
Yes, it will happen. He'll use his best qualities and win with his striking and extraordinary abilities. Khabib, meanwhile, in front of him...
To choke him out, Khabib did that to him and he landed basically.
And Khabib, Khabib, he realized that Conor was really expecting that wrestling, that he showed he was going for the takedown and almost a knockout. Conor almost got knocked out.
I watched an interesting video and they were saying take the best grappler right now. That's Gordon Ryan. I don't know how much you follow, but right now he's kind of
I'll show you, he's just a machine.
He just, crushes everyone. And he has this unique thing. He can adapt to any style. Like everyone has their own style, but he can adjust to any style. He can adapt.
And the weight class?
In your opinion?
Well, heavyweight.
Heavyweight, but he's just so much,
He's got a lot of good pharmacology in him, yeah.
That's clear, yeah, but
also from a technical point of view, he's awesome.
yes.
But not a single defeat.
Well, maybe, I don't know, like 60 or 70 fights he didn't lose.
I kept track of his defeats, but the fact is, in these last tournaments, he just, as they say, remained undefeated.
But he did lose there earlier, like on points, I think, to Filipena. I think he lost, I don't remember exactly, but so he also has that rival, let's say his kryptonite, whom he later beat, but it was tough. Why am I asking this question? Chimpanzee, have you ever seen what a chimpanzee looks like without fur? Well, like if you shave a monkey or something, yeah, it's all tendons,
Just these kinds of muscles.
these kinds of ligaments.
I've always been curious when you go to a big zoo, like the monkey house, and they always reach out their hand, and they always tell you, don't even think about it, their strength is just unreal. I always thought, what's the big deal? Well, of course, if a chimpanzee runs out, people always think, yeah, I could handle that chimp myself. And every time you reach out, there's always some kind of self-preservation instinct. But I understand that they're incredibly strong, just unreal. They say even a small chimpanzee is as strong as 2 or 3 adults.
They say that if you take Gordon Rene, an average person, he would most likely lose to a chimpanzee because a chimpanzee is just so flexible, so strong, so agile. It's just like that.
If you take a bunch of assumptions.
All sorts of assumptions. Or if you take a gorilla, no matter how much you train your striking against a gorilla, to put it mildly, it would be very difficult to handle. So, genetics, nature, our given traits, they play a huge role. They really do.
It seems people are getting weaker. In the past, out of desperation, they would hunt and take them down barehanded. That's what I'm saying, and I think that's still true. These days, if a weirdo gets cornered, I think everyone will freak out.
That's the next step. It'll happen in the future. When people get tired of watching mixed martial arts, then, well, it'll be with animals.
Tell me, the contracts that fighters have with their camps, are those based on some kind of handshake agreements in our country? Or is it officially stated there that Taras Kiyashko will get, say, 20%?
Mostly, of course, everything is based on agreements, and I believe that the level of agreement and obviously the level of decency is above all. Still, I believe that everything should be written down on paper.
100%.
100%, because it disciplines you. It's the right thing to do. Because these tomes, let's say, if you take the contract with UFC, besides the fact that it's just a contract with UFC, then for each fight there's another huge tome like this. There, for every word, what you have the right to do, what you don't have the right to do, and that's all in the regulations of this contract. You exist and live, you get paid for it, you pay for it, and you get paid for it. I think that's right, and I'm not against these contracts. I think it's normal that they exist.
Taras is very kind and even overly well-mannered. But in reality, a lot of things are just words. Some kind of agreement, but in fact later there's cheating and it's just not cool.
Of course, a lot. Yeah, you get ready to hold the lamp.
There, yeah, where they make some noise.
Again, the timing is off and it's gone. That's it, you agree on something, and in the end, just a word.
A word, an idea.
Yeah, again, we start digging into everything on a global scale. Yeah, the word of honor, some concepts, they also disappear. Damn.
Listen, I see now that anyone can insult or call anyone anything with just a phrase, and there are no consequences. But what if you actually meet that person? And the funniest thing is, if you meet them in real life, they start stuttering, and God forbid you touch them. Same thing. There. So much will happen. The police will record 600 videos. You get what I mean? That's the point. And when you start to isolate yourself from these people, they start calling you sensitive, like F blocked them, doesn't talk in foo anymore.
About psychologists, I used to have a certain attitude towards them. Well, I used to think that if you talk to a psychologist, it means you're not right in the head, but, well...
You and I are actually very similar, really.
But my job, it's actually quite difficult. And in my life, when people showed up who really knocked the wind out of me, so to speak, in a good way, I had a lot of questions that I couldn't answer myself, and I was interested in figuring out how a person's mind works to understand why people acted that way. so that this bag of crap that I carry with me that stinks, I could finally let it go. And my psychologist, she told me that there's such a thing as circles of communication. So you just mentioned a circle, she says. The closest circle is the first circle. She asks, who's in there for you? I start listing. Mom, grandma, sister, wife, best friend. She says, no, he doesn't belong there. I ask, why? And I was always, it was always about me. And she says, no, only family belongs there, only family and children. And if someone else comes in there, they push someone out or ruin the relationship with the one who came in. Most often, all psychologists say this.
Psychologists say that, and recently, I really like you. Wait, let me interrupt you. Do you have the same psychologist? By the way, no, I've always just been a supporter. I mean, it's really embarrassing. You see it, especially before, in American movies, it's everywhere. And you always treated it like it was schizophrenia. Same here. I think I explained it well here, especially after facing this in Turkey recently. Sometimes you just sit there in a state not understanding why it's like this. What's even going on? I mean, when all of this just builds up, you're giving it your all, but there's just a closed door, really just a door, total silence. You realize that...
Well, you give everything to the person and they give you nothing in return.
So you start to wonder, is this even right? Is it a mistake or not? And, I mean, they have psychologists. And then a good acquaintance of mine, a friend, says, let me give you my psychologist, you can talk to them. So, just for fun, I agreed. And they think a little differently, and they present things to you in a new way.
Well, we were talking, you were telling about Turkey, that there were people there who, would look you right in the eyes. They say one thing, but it's actually different and you can't figure out how it works. Also, what's the point of the first circle if it's called something else? Obligated, meaning these are children, mother, so whether you can or can't, whether you want to or not, you are obligated, it's your child, you have to raise them, it's your mother, you have to take care of her, and your wife, you should also take good care of her, love her, and that's it. The second circle is exactly about logic, best friends like a cousin, uncle, aunt, and so on.
Circle, close relatives, so to speak.
Yeah, and best friends, that's what the circle is called. You should, meaning you give to a person, but they should give to you too. And the third is the want, don't want circle. Besides, there are buddies, acquaintances, people you've never seen anywhere before. You see them for the first time. You wanted to do something. You did it. You didn't want to. You didn't do it. But you have no right to expect anything. And in friendship, he says, the main reason for all the problems is that a person is in your second circle of best friends, but you are in their third circle. You keep doing things for him, but for him, you're in the maybe I want, maybe I don't circle, so go ahead and do it. You just like doing it. And that's the problem, to understand who is in which circle for you, and besides that, to understand where you are in their circles, and you can sort of map this out. Why did I remember this? Psychological attitude is very important. Many fights are lost simply because sometimes people burn out. I've also lost matches. I have this trait. I burn out right during the matches. In the gym, I'm good. I can outwork everyone. But during the matches, I burn out. That's my problem. Now it's less. Like in football, you have to fight it. Did you have any... I'm curious how Taras prepares his athletes so that this doesn't happen, briefly.
I'll just say it because this is more about you. Well, anyway, you listen. In football, it's still. So, if hypothetically, since you have 11 football players, right? Plus substitutes, even if 1, 2, or 3 of them mess up a little or lose their focus a bit, you can always hide behind others and let someone else carry the team so you'll manage somehow.
But if it's a penalty shootout, a penalty...
That's purely psychology. A lot depends, first and foremost, on the goalkeeper. It's trendy now, like the Croatian goalkeeper who saved 3 of 4 penalties against Japan, yet people say the Japanese just took poor shots. He guessed the right way, so it's not that interesting after. Better shots were possible, but the goalkeeper is key. How he approaches this moment, whether he actually enjoys it, feeds off this fear, because the goalkeeper has nothing to lose, but for the players, it's a huge, huge deal for them. Scientists say penalty takers experience something similar to a tiny stroke during a shot. It's extremely intense.
Looks like Pograf at the World Cup won't take the shot and everyone's waiting.
I can speak for myself. When there was a penalty for Spain at the World Cup, I wasn't supposed to take the shot. There, the one who takes the shot should say, listen, I turned around, it was a shock for me. I said, you're the one who should take the shot, go ahead, take it. I turn around, and you start to feel a bit of panic. I say, guys, and everyone immediately goes like, yeah, go ahead. And you put the ball down and your whole life flashes before your eyes right away.
Suddenly the goal seems huge, you realize.
Right now, yeah, that if you don't score, the whole country, everyone, seriously, they'll just eat you alive.
I'll ask later, that's something.
And in football, you can cover yourself. I mean, you can really burn out, you can play badly. Actually, very often it's the opposite. You feel great instead. Right on game day, During the warm-up, everything seems fine, the game starts, and suddenly nothing works, you feel like crap. And sometimes, on a terrible day, you feel sick, almost like you're about to get ill, but you go out there and just do amazing things. I can't understand how that happens. But in your combat sports, it's a different story.
I think it depends on this 100%. Well, to be honest, maybe 80%. Actually, maybe even more, maybe even over 90%. Sometimes there are guys who don't even train, here and there. But they're so confident in themselves, not arrogant, just confident. They go out, do the job, and win. And sometimes a person is fully equipped, just a god in the gym during sparring, it doesn't matter. He steps into the cage, and that's it. Something switches. Besides stepping out, there's a guy in front ready to kill you, your mouth goes dry, and a crowd of 1 million people. Yeah, remember when you talked about that building? After you won, you couldn't hear anything around you.
But my ears were completely blocked.
The fans are cheering, so it comes with experience, that's 100% true. The more you go through this stressful excitement, the easier it gets, the better you adapt to it. You have to learn this. Coaches should have the skills of a psychologist, but you also need to involve sports psychologists 100%, because they really, if the person is a specialist...
He helps you find something great. Yes, I think so.
Fights.
It's not really like that, because they're tough guys. No one talks about their skills except to a close circle. In tennis, it's very common. You talk to all the tennis players and they all say, I get tense during the game, during practice, all of that. They're in the gym. Well, they just produce a lot of, I think, oddballs who could almost beat Federer. As soon as there's a whistle, a camera, all that, it's like, you can test any person, someone who's not famous, just an ordinary person who never deals with this in real life. Turn on the camera, ask him a question and say, someone is watching you right now. See how many people freeze on camera.
Well,
yeah, and this fear, it's kind of animalistic inside, I don't know, and you just can't deal with it. It's the same here, I think, when you step onto the tatami or into the cage, the door closes behind you, and at some point something just breaks inside you.
I recommend the movie Borg McEnroe if you haven't seen it. It's about tennis, not me.
I know about those two. You have two legends who fought each other.
There's Shilabaf, amazing, right?
Yeah, take a look, thanks.
I enjoy watching that over there. He used to get up in the morning and everything had to be laid out for him, in 7 suitcases. It all had to be just so. Here, there had to be 3 toothpicks. So, out of 1,000 little things, if something was out of place somewhere, his game wouldn't come together and nobody knew about it. Everyone saw him from the outside as some kind of machine, but in reality, he was mentally ill since childhood and he had problems with anger management. As he grew up, he learned to control it, but the other was aggressive. They played, though they were actually the same.
You see, it's interesting. It's like King Richard. You look at what kind of father they had, even though he was strange, but he instilled in them that they were the best, that they were simply the very best. And at a young age, they would say, I'll win Wimbledon, I'll win this. And they actually did win. That's a certain kind of mindset too. Maybe it's even good to have a father like that, a bit out of the ordinary.
All of this is taught, it all should be, right from childhood. There's even that old English elite education, so-called. Yes, there's one of those points when kids are sent there. Of course, the conditions are very strict, but each one grows up to be a narcissist, in a good sense of the word. They instill in everyone that you are the best, that there's no one cooler than you. And that's how from such a childhood a leader grows up. Of course, sometimes he's cynical, sometimes something else, but he won't let anyone walk all over him.
Listen, well, I think any athlete who achieves something, really any person who reaches a certain greatness, is like that. The higher he climbs, the more certain cynicism and 100% egoism he'll have. Otherwise...
I wasn't going to give it as a gift, but now I will. 4 years ago, I think it's already 4, I had a patient who was crazy about Tyoma, and we were sitting in quarantine playing soccer. By the way, he's really good at playing soccer. Yeah, I know, yeah, I don't play with him anymore. And we even organized a tournament there. Vadik Galligan played with us too. And I said, there's a friend lying there. He had surgery. He's always talking about you. He found out that we talked together. And he, asked so many questions, and I said, let's record something for him. And I thought, well, he'd send something, maybe 10 seconds, something like that. He made a video for me, saying he appreciated me, which made me really happy. I also posted the video, and that made me even happier. I'm glad that this person, Artyom, no matter how many times I asked him for something, like to support me, or there was some event, something else, something very, very simple, it's actually very valuable. Thank you. He gave me a book back then. The book is 15 years old as far as I know. You don't have this book. It's 15 years old. Very, very few of them were published. It actually says here that it's for the doctor.
But I'll try to live up to that. I'm Dr. Doom.
She's really cool. This is the story of the Zenit Club. She's honestly really cool. And, there's just this beautiful shyness. It's a great book, and I'm happy to have it.
This book, thank you. I'm really pleased. Thank you, Dimitri. Thank you so much.
And my final question is probably for both of you guys. Look, I often criticize all our fans a lot because, as I believe and see it in all sports, you guys unfortunately sometimes don't know how to support properly. Here, when we win, we're the best in the world. They celebrate heroes when the team wins, but as soon as they lose or fall short, everyone quickly turns on them. Instead of supporting and being proud, they just start throwing insults. I think our people don't know how to be real fans. They immediately start insulting. All they want is victories. I think you should treat your favorite team, especially if it's the national team like they do in many other countries. We should learn from the Japanese, for example, with love, like they're your family, as if they're your relatives. Yes, he finished 7th there and is 3rd now, but he gave it his all. And just like some people scold their children, but they say the right way to raise kids is to praise them for the good things, not for making 6 mistakes, but for not making any in 5 words. And I have a personal message to our fans from different sports. Learn how to support. Athletes especially need support when they lose or things don't go their way, since everyone cheers when they win. I don't post when, someone wins. Or like Sash, I always write, like, good job, I was rooting for you before the fight, always supporting. I write that, but I never post after. And I knew, because when a person loses, no one posts, no one writes anything. On the contrary, they need support. And I want to hear from you, as people from the other side of the barricades. How important is it for athletes during a tough time, after a loss, to get the right, adequate team support from fans? Is it important?
But we've gotten so used to it that, to be honest, we don't even pay attention to it anymore. But there are people, close people, and even people I've never seen or heard of, who actually stay with us until the very end. It's very nice, and I can honestly say that we perform for them, our team plays for them, our guys fight for them, for people like that. But as for the dirt, often it's written on purpose. Exactly to draw attention to themselves, exactly to make people talk about them at the expense of someone else's grief or defeat. It's everyone's own business, but when people root for you, worry about you and support you, it really matters and truly gives you real support.
Honestly, I said everything well, and Taras added that it's hard to say anything more directly. Well, first of all, I guess it's important to say that they should understand that athletes are not indifferent. I mean, there's a big misconception that everyone thinks like, damn, over there.
I instantly remembered the video of you crying at the championship.
I still can't watch that video. I stumbled upon it once.
It's very touching.
And I started crying again.
That's when I truly started to respect and love you.
The funniest thing is I didn't even think I would cry. At first I just felt this surge of resentment, like a kind of anger. And then I was taken for a doping test, and I was already walking like that. I started building up these walls inside myself like, forget it, it's all over, just let it go, it's all nonsense, just go. I said, yeah, let's go. I thought they'd just give me the cold shoulder, like, you're there, I'm here, that's it. Actually, we do care. And honestly, of course, it hurts like crazy. When you lose, especially in the first day or so, it's just such pain, really. I mean, really, with time it all fades, but for a while it just bleeds inside and really hurts. Especially when you're playing for your country or representing your country on the world stage. Of course, it's double the responsibility, and if you win, obviously everyone is there with you. It's true, really, everyone, and you feel like you're flying, soaring. But when you lose, you just turn into that little boy who's all alone there. It hurts so much, you feel so upset, and of course, like any man, we don't need pity. Pity is the worst thing for men. But sometimes just a kind word, or even just seeing a certain look in someone's eyes, you realize that you gave it your all. And today it just didn't work out. That's probably the most valuable thing.
I'm still proud of you. That feeling that the country is still proud of you.
Yes, the best part is realizing that when you're rowing with your team, you keep going to the end, and even if things don't work out, you don't give up. In the boat, 2 or 3 people remain standing with you until the end, while everyone else has already jumped out. It's no big deal. This unity in the country, I really want to see that, for example, in our country, this great unity. No matter what happens in the world, we must be united, like a single fist. History will judge everything else in all its forms and directions, but we must stand united for each other and defend one another.
And the fan, yes, any person like you, when you judge or do something else, put yourself in the place of the person who, because 99% won't step into the cage.
They can't imagine.
That they can't imagine what it's going to be like. All right?
95.
95% of them don't even know what football really is, that it's such a tough sport. And it's the same thing. In mixed martial arts, obviously, you get hit, you're alone out there. In football, it's the same. You go out there to take a penalty kick, it's just as tough. Like Artyom was saying, yeah, the pressure is enormous, everything is decided right there. And I actually think that when national teams play, that's already on a global scale. It's already the state playing against the state, both before and now. I believe it confirms the status of the country. And of course, in any case, if you have support, it gives you even more confidence, besides your own character and everything else.
Well, on the other hand, it probably also toughens you up. That's what makes our country wonderful. We don't have a golden mean. We either win right away and become gods, or as soon as you lose, it's all over, Havana, that's it. So maybe that's the charm. That's definitely ours. That's how we are. We either love with all our heart, or hate with all our heart. We either lift someone up to the skies, and then immediately start dreaming of bringing them down. And we need to be able to find some kindness within ourselves for this.
You know, on Instagram, there's this concept of an avatar. It's not what's on your profile picture, but rather who is, so to speak, subscribed to you. And most often, the people who follow you are either those who want to be like you, or those who share your values, priorities, and outlook on life in many ways. That's why my audience is very smart, well-read, non-toxic, and there's not much hate, because most of the people are really quite cultured. And as we recently found out, just the other day, we actually have even more people, more mutual friends and acquaintances.
Yes.
It was actually very surprising, and I really appreciate it. You know how they say, it's not that the world is small, it's just that the layer of good people is very thin. And I really appreciate that, first of all, you found time in your busy schedule, the opportunity to come and spend these 2 hours with me. I think you brought a huge amount of value. Someone learned more about you, someone gained something useful, someone will watch this video later with friends in the kitchen. Thank you. Because what we do doesn't just go into the void, it changes people for the better.
Thank you so much. Really, honestly, you're a very pleasant person to talk to. There are people who radiate positive energy. Your followers and those around you likely feel it too, which is interesting for us, and maybe we've been viewed differently. Because usually I always see you joking and laughing, but here it's more serious. People had a heartfelt conversation back then. That's what I think happened.
Well, and the questions, yeah, actually, it seems like we're the guests, but I always have questions for people in medicine, and I have huge respect for them.
Thank you very much. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.